17-year-old opening fire in the school's cafeteria. The shooter, reportedly armed with a shotgun and handgun, additionally injured 6 others and killed one 11-year-old sixth grader. Now, the town's police have identified the suspect as 17-year-old Dylan Butler, whom they believe died in a self-inflicted gunshot wound. For more, let's welcome in retired NYPD Detective Mike Sapraicone, as well as founder of Blue Line Institute, Lance J. LoRusso. Gentlemen, good morning. I wish I could say Happy New Year here, but you're talking about starting off with the death of an 11-year-old, a principal in critical condition, taking gunfire to save the children, heroic efforts there. But, you walk into an active shooting in a situation like this, and a principal has to play hero to save lives. I just want to hear your response to this. We'll start off with you, Mike. What do you think?
Well, Michael, thanks for having me. I mean, it's becoming part of the job description for teachers and principals that all of a sudden they have to worry about protecting their students. And we've gone so far. We can't do that. We have to make a safe place for our students to go to school, for our parents to feel comfortable with their students there, and for our teachers and our principals to be able to educate and not worry about protecting them from physical harm. We could talk about active shooting situations till we're blue in the face, but we need to go beyond that. We need to talk about why are these things happening and how do we stop them and protect our students. Yeah,
that's a great point, Lance. This is unfortunately, it's not the first mass shooting. Can you believe that? To hit this country this year. Not even a week into 24, and we already see 5 separate incidents. So again, from your perspective, what can our nation do to address this crisis? I see it as a mental health crisis, but what say you?
Well, the first thing we need to do is recognize that principals are not law enforcement officers. Teachers should not be stopping active shooters. Law enforcement officers should. And instead of bashing police, instead of telling police they can't be on the campus, instead of saying we don't want officers with firearms in schools, they need to recognize that law enforcement officers are a recognized, trained group of people who can keep students safe. This defund the police movement, which is the fastest conceived, implemented, and failed social policy in U.S. history, is putting people at risk. And if you look at these schools over and over again, if you study mass shooters, they're very quick. They either end their own life or an officer or a private citizen who's armed ends their life. The bottom line is if the officer is not present, there's no help available. And most of these shootings, almost all of them at schools and facilities, there is no armed law enforcement officer there.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. And Mike, I said this before. Principals shouldn't have to do this. Look, I signed up for it, right? I was in law enforcement. I knew that I might get shot at. I might be in these situations, but I don't expect that out of a principal. Again, I'm very glad that the principal was able to save lives. But, these number of school shooting incidents, they're only growing exponentially, by the way. Just about tripling since 2020. So what do you think is causing this trend? And how do we stop it? What is you mentioned before, we got to get to the root cause, but what is the root cause?
Well, I agree with you, Michael. We signed up for this years ago that we were going to be the guys running towards those weapons and things. I don't know what the root cause is. It's tough to be a parent, but we need to look at our children and we need to observe and what's going on and try to find out what. I agree with you about the mental part, but we need to know what's troubling them and why is it so different now than it was 30 years ago? Okay, why are we finding so many of these situations? What anger do these children have that they bring these weapons to school and want to harm people? And then most times they take their own lives. And we know that. It's either suicide by police officer or their own suicide. We need to look into the mental problems are important, but what's going on in the world that are making kids look in a different way, not consider how important life is, how important caring for people is right nowadays. I agree about the police officers in schools. We would never, forget the defunding part, take that out of the picture for right now. Even if we didn't defund police, which is ridiculous, we would never have enough police officers to put in schools. We need to look at the type of security we have. We need to look at retired officers possibly as security, and some schools are. But we need to revamp the system and figure out what the problem is.
If I could bring Lance in here for the last minute, Lance, finish it up. But I like the idea, and I've been saying this for a long time. We have a ton of qualified retired police officers throughout our country. That should be the focus, to put them, even if they're plain clothes, but they're armed and they're ready to respond to this. 30 seconds.
Oh, they're there. You know, they're parents. And some of those folks that are retired officers or even off-duty officers are being told they have to leave their guns in the car. It's ridiculous. And it's a recognition that it's a threat. Stop putting your head in the sand. And the mental health issues that are there are clearly combined with some societal factors where if somebody gets you upset, it's okay to use violence against them.
Well, we're going to leave it there. Mike Sapraicone, Lance LaRusso, thank you very much and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Thanks, Michael. Happy New Year.
And we'll be right back.